What's up, guys? Tyler back again with another video. So I have to break two big things today. While PSA is keeping my cards hostage, by the way, and they are starting to stack up and get behind, I'm going to just bring some news to you. Also, the first thing I want to talk about is Shohei Ohtani's injury, how it's going to impact the sports card market, what my thoughts are on that, and my outlook on Shohei Ohtani over the next 3 to 5 years. And then secondly, I also want to touch on the Fanatics Panini dispute and with the NFL Players Association, as I've not said anything about that. Right now, this is the hot off the press news that I want to cover. So for those of you who likely know, who are clicking on this video, Shohei Ohtani did suffer an injury yesterday while he was pitching against the Cincinnati Reds. Hit a home run in the second inning, came back to the doubleheader and played, but he does have a grade 2 sprain in his UCL ligament, which essentially means it is it is a tear. It's a partial tear, not a complete tear, but likely something that will require surgery, likely a Tommy John surgery. Don't really want to get into the medical part of that. I'm not a physician, so I'm not a surgeon either, and I can't really speak to that. It's not my expertise. But as it relates to the sports card market, there have been a lot of wild reactions, not only in the sports commentator world, but also just in the hobby. So whenever it comes to the hobby, we know that we are a very finicky type of group, especially in the post-COVID era. Now that there's a lot of sports card investor type people, there's a lot of Gary V type people. I think that a lot of these people can be somewhat skittish on news like this, and make no mistake, because there is this herd mentality that exists, that does influence vast swings in the market, whether it be positive swings or negative swings. So the way that I like to view the market today is it is a a Lord of the Rings analogy. So if you can imagine the eye of Sauron as it is just looking at different things and lighting it up ablaze, it literally feels like right now in the hobby, if that eye is not looking at that player or that card, everything seems like it's kind of dead. And for the most part, the eye of Sauron has been looking at Shohei Ohtani, and the market has been en fuego really the past 2 years. Shohei Ohtani carried the hobby in 2021, which, if you don't know, really peaked at the beginning of 2021, right around February. Then as the economy started to go down, the market started to go down. But the lone bright spot, of course, there's going to be some one-offs that are also occurring, but the lone bright spot to really carry the hobby in a big way in 2021 was Shohei Ohtani. Of course, a lot of the influencers missed out on this, the Gary V's of the world, and those who follow that type of advice. We're looking at Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto. Those are the people that they're really trying to push. And because Shohei Ohtani was not that narrative that a lot of the influencer types were buying, Shohei Ohtani was never really pushed. It was just more of a natural evolution in a good way in terms of people gravitating towards his cards. New collector base was created. MVP year in 2021, phenomenal. One of the greatest baseball seasons of all time. Fast forward to 2022, Shohei Ohtani is probably the third best hitter in the American League, behind Vladimir Guerrero Jr., behind Yordan Alvarez. You could make an argument. Jose Ramirez, I believe, was also maybe that vying for that third spot. But at worst case scenario, he's the third, fourth best hitter in 2022, but had a remarkable pitching year. So took a step back as a hitter, but took a step forward as a pitcher. Over 160 innings, over 200 strikeouts. Just phenomenal. ERA, low 2s. So again, arguably another one of the greatest baseball seasons of all time. He would have won the MVP had it not been for Aaron Judge. I got those years wrong. Aaron Judge was the 2022 year. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is 2021. So Vlad Guerrero Jr. in 2021 was really probably the best hitter. Ohtani was the second best hitter in 2021. 2023, this year, it is pretty dang clear. Ohtani is the best hitter in baseball. That is not arguable. And I don't think people are necessarily really taking into consideration how great of a year this is. We can pull up some statistics just to make reference of this, but if you look at Shohei Ohtani's numbers this year, especially some of the more advanced numbers, there's some eye-popping things to look at as it relates to OPS plus. Now, OPS plus, there have been better years as it relates to OPS plus of 183. This isn't even a top 200 season of all time. Of course, OPS plus is really skewed by some of those earlier years, the 1920s and 1930s guys. I mean, they had routine 200 plus OPS pluses, but now if you are a player that has an OPS plus above 200, that is just magical. Like some of the best baseball seasons of recent memory as it relates to OPS plus. Bryce Harper's MVP year, Mike Trout, I believe, had a year, whether it's 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Mookie Betts had a one in the high 180s. To put this into perspective, King Griffey Jr. never had an OPS plus in the 180s or higher. So right now, basically, Shohei Ohtani, and even if you look at his 162 game averages as a player, he's essentially averaging 40 home runs a year at OPS plus of 147. To put that into context, King Griffey Jr. in his 13 years with Seattle, I know this takes into consideration the last 2 years that he was there in Seattle, which does downgrade his numbers, had an OPS plus in like the 130s. I want to say it's 134, 135. I'm going off memory here. Now, the big thing with King Griffey Jr. is the counting stats. Of course, he was hitting home runs at a crazy rate, and he also benefited from coming into the league at 19. So this is where a lot of the detractors will come into play and say that Shohei is not really going to get those longevity stats more than likely because he's already essentially 29. He turned 29 in the summer, entered the year at 28. So he's going to start next year, again, age 29. By the All-Star break, he's going to be 30. So he's going to start next year at 29. So people are already kind of dismissing him and throwing him off as being old, and he's not really going to be accumulating a lot of stats. Not really taking this into consideration. The COVID year was, just a screwy year for a lot of different players, and of course you miss a lot of games. The injury that did occur in 2018 where he was getting treatment but then had Tommy John surgery in October of 2018. Of course, he comes back in 2019 and he is a hitter and hit kind of well, but he's still fresh into the league. I mean, he had a shortened rookie year. This is still not really a complete 162 game season yet. Seems like 2021 is really where the career just finally came to a point where he was healthy and we could see exactly what Shohei Ohtani could do. So as you look at these numbers into context and put it into perspective, what we have for Shohei Ohtani right now is essentially a peak Mike Trout. Now, of course, Mike Trout, the guy who carried the hobby for the entire 20 teens, he is a center fielder which plays the premium position, so obviously that's more valuable than DH. But essentially, Mike Trout, in terms of offensive numbers, this is essentially peak Mike Trout in terms of the performance that we're getting from an offensive Shohei Ohtani. Throw in the fact that essentially Shohei has been a top 5, top 10 pitcher for the past 3 years. I mean, really top 5 pitcher if you go 3 years running. This is a unicorn. So the fact that he's done this 3 years is insane. To me, and I said this pre-injury, I say this post-injury, if Shohei Ohtani essentially does this for 3 more years, we're looking at the greatest baseball player of all time just because of this consistently high peak. I mean, we're talking about 6 years where it is very arguable, and it's hard to argue for or against because it's unprecedented, that each individual year on its own could potentially be argued as the greatest baseball season of all time just based on the value that it creates. And I don't even know if WAR necessarily does it justice. So to me, 5 or 6 years like this, it's undisputable. Hypothetically, let's say that Shohei Ohtani does not come back and play, it's going to make this a much more interesting debate, or doesn't come back and pitch, let's rephrase that. It's going to make this a much more interesting debate because I'm still anticipating that as Shohei Ohtani ages, obviously it's not going to be a 40 home run average. We see a lot of players drop off. Albert Pujols, King Griffey Jr., et cetera. Of course, they started in the majors a little bit earlier. Of course, Shohei Ohtani started in Japan, so there's still going to be some wear and tear on the body. I'm not necessarily anticipating 40 home runs for the next 10 years. That's, I think, very unrealistic. I think optimistically, you could say 30 home run average because there may be some more injuries that occur. There's going to be some more 40 home run season, I would think. But I don't think that there's going to be a consistently high 40 home run plus sustained performance for a decade. That usually just doesn't happen with contracts going through your 30s. But I think 30 is a moderate middle ground where if you're placing a bet, 30 home run average, Could be optimistic, but it's probably somewhere in the middle. It's not high, it's not low, it's somewhere in the middle. That's basically putting Shohei Ohtani at close to 500 home runs. Plus what he's already done as a pitcher, which is just unicornish in itself. I'm not stating that Shohei Ohtani is not going to pitch again, but in the event that he doesn't, that still makes an interesting argument whether or not close to a 500 home run career total, along with 3 years of dominant pitching, then throw in the lore and everything in terms of him having Tommy John surgery and coming back and becoming essentially the greatest phenom 3-year run that we've ever seen. That is still something to marvel at and puts him in the upper echelon, in my opinion, of people who are going into the Hall of Fame as top 3, top 2 baseball player of all time. That's if he never pitches again. I still think that's on the table. I do believe that he is going to pitch again, which means, for the people out there saying that his market is absolutely going to tank, yes, there's going to be a pullback because, as I mentioned before, there's the Gary Vee types, there's the sports card investor types, the people who follow their every word, who jump at everything that they say, who are putting all their money in Juan Soto and Ronald Acuna Jr. and are now incredibly butthurt that they missed out on Shohei Ohtani, who are now coming into these discussions and essentially poo-pooing Ohtani. And I think a lot of it is just because they've missed out on the opportunities over the past 2 years, while Shohei Ohtani has essentially just gone up. In 2022, he had a pullback. Of course he had a pullback because 2021 was just that insane offensively. But this year, he's, of course, gone up, and he's been the biggest riser of anyone, bar none. Not just individual card prices, but volume. He has essentially carried all of my sales. He and Aaron Judge early on in the year, of course, Aaron Judge got hurt. His sales tailed off, and his sales and prices have also tailed off as well. But Shohei Ohtani's volume, and it's not just rookie cards, it's collectible cards where there's variations, refractors, on-card autographs. Good luck finding an on-card autograph right now less than $800 from an official licensed Topps product. You're still, as of today, you're still not finding them. So what do I think is going to happen to the market? Because there's finicky people out there for the more common volatile stuff, yes, of course we're going to see a pullback. We've seen pullbacks pre-injury. So Topps Chrome PSA 10s really peaked at the 350, 360, 370 range with some volume. Yeah, maybe some went a little bit higher than that, but in terms of actual sales that are repeatable, 350 I think is probably it. I don't even know if I got any that high. Maybe they're in the 330, 340 range. I had a lot of them in that range. But as of last week, I actually sold, earlier this week, I sold 2 of them at 290. So I accepted offers all the way down to 290. So we've already seen roughly a 10 to 15% pullback in his market. You can see that prior to the injury. So what does that mean for post-injury? Are we going to continue to see a pullback? In certain cards, yes, we absolutely are. There's a ton of Shohei Ohtani rookie cards out there. Does that mean that I'm not going to buy Shohei Ohtani? Who would be my biggest bet moving forward? Shohei Ohtani. Like, if you're going to be buying baseball cards, okay, so you're going to tell me the guy who is currently on pace for 56 home runs, over 20 stolen bases, an OPS of 1.06, 1.07, which, mind you, King Griffey Jr. never had an OPS greater than 1.025 in a season where he had more than 140 games. You're going to tell me I'm going to bet against that guy because he can't pitch now? He's literally the best hitter in baseball right now. And you're going to tell me that his market is going to crash now that he can't also pitch? So basically, he's Mike Trout. We've taken away his ability to be essentially a top 3, top 4 pitcher. Name your favorite pitcher. He's essentially that or better. So because he can't do that anymore, we're going to expect his market to crash. Okay. All right. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Will we see a pullback? Yes. Will we see a crash? Now, define crash differently. Everybody's going to have a different, interpretation of that. Are we going to see Topps Chrome PSA 10s less than $100? I don't think so. I really don't think so. Are they going to be less than the 290 that they are now, or whatever they're going to end up with today? I have one at auction right now. It ends later tonight. It's bid up to 247. Would it not surprise me if that doesn't get any more bids? It would not surprise me. Could I see those going less than 200? Yes, I could. And I've never really been an advocate of people, again, investing in cards. But in terms of buying, grading, and flipping, dude, that's the only guy that I'm going to be buying. actually in times like this, good and bad times, bring out raw supply, graded supply, any supply to the market. So, for example, whenever Patrick Mahomes won his Super Bowl, lots of people were trying to cash in at that time. Second Super Bowl, first Super Bowl, it doesn't matter. Lots of people were selling their cards because they thought that they were going to get a bump. That meant a lot of raw, gradable cards came to market. At that time, I scooped up as many of them as I could. Of course, that supply is dwindling. There's not many gradable Patrick Mahomes cards out there, but I scooped a lot of them up, and I'm glad that we won the Super Bowl. I'm happy to pay marginally inflated prices to get very good, clean, raw cards. In news like this, we're going to see a lot of people with weak hands start selling their cards because they thought these cards were going to continue to go to the moon, when in fact we're starting to see horizontal trading with Ohtani, if not a decrease. Great, that sounds great. You guys are going to get scared, sell your cards to me, clean raw copies, there's still a bunch of them out there. That means that I can send these cards off during, a potential downtime for Shohei, and whenever he inks up a contract for $450, $500, $600 million in the offseason, there's going to be another boost again. He's going to have an off-season surgery or get some rehab. He's still going to be a hitter. He's not going to miss games as it relates to hitting. Maybe there's a month or two that he misses. I think that he did miss roughly 7 months before he did start hitting, but he will be hitting again next year. So, we're getting Shohei Ohtani, and we're still getting an elite hitter. We may have to wait, obviously, for the pitching to come until 2025, but guess what? He's proven it before. He's going to prove it again. And if there's anybody that I'm going to bet on in baseball, it's going to be Shohei Ohtani. He still has the amazing fan base. He is the most marketable baseball player out there as it relates to not only here in America, but also internationally. There's literally nobody else that I want to park my money into. You're telling me you want me to bet on Juan Soto, who can't shuffle and hit home runs anymore? You want me to bet on Ronald Acuna Jr., who, granted, is having a great year, but his teammates hated him and called him out for lack of hustle numerous times, and Freddie Freeman. And also is just very cocky and arrogant. Like, I love King Griffey Jr., cocky, arrogant, but, cool. Ronald Acuna Jr. is kind of a dick. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I mean, he's in Canada. I mean, it's kind of hard to market him. Who else? Fernando Tatis Jr.? Yep, steroids. No. Mike Trout can't stay healthy. Otherwise, I'd be buying him too. Aaron Judge, maybe he can't stay healthy. Honestly, Aaron Judge is going to be a great offseason buy. He is still on pace for that 60 home runs if he plays 162 games healthy. So that's key for him. He, just like last offseason, just like the offseason before, it's Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani. Those are the two people who are going to buy. That's it. Aaron Judge right now is a great buy going into next year. He's probably going to be the front runner for the MVP just because Shohei Ohtani can't pitch. They're kind of going neck and neck right now in terms of who the best hitter is for over a 162 game season. But long term, dude, I'm not betting on anybody else other than Shohei Ohtani. You want me to, bet on Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, Adley Rasmussen, whatever his name is, Ellie De La Cruz? I'm going to put money into them in baseball? No. So I'm going to be buying a lot of Shohei Ohtani. I'm hoping that this injury news actually shakes up a lot of supply. I have not seen any on-card autographs that are clean raw from new products hitting the market. I hope that people who are scared start listing a lot of those cards. Also, something that I'm not seeing a lot of is actual game-use Shohei Ohtani items. I don't know if these are contractually difficult to obtain by Topps, but compared to Mike Trout, compared to Aaron Judge, there's a lot of game-used memorabilia items for them, but Shohei Ohtani, there's really not a lot of game-used memorabilia items. It's very hard to come by, which is very surprising. I just sold a triple patch numbered to 3 Beckett 9.5 Shohei Ohtani from Triple Threads for $1,300. Paid a little over $200, maybe less than $300 for it. Came back Gem Mint, made over $1,000 minus fees. But stuff like that is very hard to come by. For some of the other players, there's a lot of that stuff out there. So I'm still going to be buying rookies, variations, memorabilia, autographs. Shohei Ohtani has a massive collector base. That thing is not disappearing overnight. I don't care what sports card investor says. I don't care what anybody else out there says. Shohei Ohtani is the person to bet on long term. There is going to be a short-term dip in the common stuff. If there's rare stuff that becomes available, if it is available at any type of discount, now is your time to buy it. I don't care if it's a 10% discount, 20% discount, 30% discount. for the people out there who are poo-pooing on Shohei, well, you missed out the boat the past 2 years, the past 3 years, really. In 2021, you could have got a Bowman Chrome Orange Refractor autograph rookie for $6,000 like I did, while everybody else is speculating basketball and football and everything else. I was buying Shohei Ohtani. Oh, they were also speculating Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto. Nope, I bought Shohei Ohtani. So we're not going to see orange refractors going down to $6,000 anytime soon. But if there is any pullback in any high-end items, dude, now's your time. This may be this may be the last time that you can buy anything really at a discount. Because Shohei Ohtani, I think, is going to be the guy to go forward. What else? That's kind of all that I have on Shohei Ohtani. I do want to touch on the Panini and Fanatics issues. So I'm sure everyone is also aware of this news. Earlier this week, maybe late last week, massive shockwaves were broken by Darren Rovell's tweet, really stating that effective immediately, the NFLPA had severed its relationship with Panini as the predominant exclusive manufacturer of football cards, NFL Players Association licensed football cards. Of course, if you recall, you have to have 2 licenses, NFLPA license as well as an NFL license. The NFL Players Association decided to, again, sever its ties with Panini, who currently is the license holder through 2026, and just give it to Fanatics effective immediately. So there's been a lot of things that have transpired. I believe this article is essentially discussing the litigation battle that is now going to begin ensuing. So Panini is essentially ignoring this, and they are launching product and saying, screw this. You guys are severing our contract and breaching our contract in an unfair way. We're going to ignore this, and we're going to settle this in the courts. Now, I don't want to go into the legalities of this. There's a lot of stuff in this article, but I just want to touch on the news story and really discuss what my thoughts are on it and my takeaways. You're more than welcome to get into the weeds of this, and I'm sure other people probably have touched on the legal weeds. I don't really care about that. Don't have time to worry about it. What I do want to say, though, is as of today, let's say that this stands and Panini is officially out from the NFLPA, they still hold the license. They hold a license from the NFL. So what does that mean? That means that right now, Fanatics, assuming that this holds true, Fanatics has an NFL Players Association license. Panini has an NFL license. Nobody has both licenses together. So for 2023, that essentially means after Panini has released all of its products that it's already been printed up, and I'm sure it's a legal battle to discuss whether or not they are allowed to release those products, that they've already made and they've already invested in. Can they get those out the door? It looks like they're already doing that. They're already putting up sale sheets for 2023 Panini Donruss that's supposed to release in maybe a month. So it looks like they're ignoring that. But assuming that they stop all of that effective immediately, no one can make 2023 fully licensed sports cards with an NFL Players Association license. That license allows the license holder to essentially produce products, in this case trading cards, featuring the images and the likeness of the players. So no one can do that and at the same time produce sports cards that have NFL team logos through the NFL license. So there's no fully licensed card manufacturer as it stands after all these products get released. So right now we've got Panini Score, we've got the Panini Donruss product solicitation. There's a couple more that have been released. It looks like Luminance was sold online. I don't think it's officially come out yet. So we have a couple fully licensed products that are hitting the market, but at some point I'm imagining that's going to stop. And there's not going to be any more fully licensed cards until this thing gets settled in court. That's kind of bad. That's a headwind against the hobby. Now, what I was anticipating this happening is also there being a release from someone essentially saying that not only is this NFLPA license being affected, but also the NFL license. And I was also expecting later on there to be a cascade effect over to the NBA, where perhaps the NBA could get the license a little bit quicker as well, through NBA Basketball Association and also the NBA license. So I was assuming that there was some type of backdoor swivel occurring where all of these licenses were going to get transferred over to Fanatics effective immediately. So I have two thoughts on this. One, I'm so glad that Panini is getting effed. I am so happy. Everyone here knows that I hate Panini. I hate Poopini. They put out a bunch of poop. Essentially, Poopini started this mess by gobbling up all the licenses, roughly a decade ago and becoming the exclusive trading card manufacturer for the NBA in 2009 and then the NFL in 2015. So I'm not happy at all about the exclusive monopolies that have happened and essentially been the landscape that we've seen in the sports card landscape for the past 8 years for the NFL and the past, 13, 14 years in the NBA. It has not been a net benefit for the consumer. In fact, Patrick Mahomes is now in his, 5th, 6th year in the NFL. He today does not have an officially licensed, game-used memorabilia card featuring him in an NFL uniform with a jersey or patch or helmet or football that was officially used in an NFL game. That does not happen. At this same time frame for Tom Brady's career, he had roughly over 300, over 400 game-used memorabilia cards worn by him, used by him in NFL games. So all the memorabilia cards that Patrick Mahomes has out there are junk, fake, not game used whatsoever. And to me, that pisses me off. And Poopini, prior to all this turmoil, has refused to interject any game used material, especially when it relates to NFL. NBA, there is some. It's few and far between. Nothing in the MLB. All that stuff is player-worn garbage. There's none of that in the NFL as it relates to Patrick Mahomes. I don't even care about any of the other players. None for Patrick Mahomes. That pisses me off. Do I expect this to get better under Fanatics? No, because that's going to be an additional cost. I mean, game-used jerseys for Patrick Mahomes now are, pushing almost 6 figures if I'm not mistaken. So it's very expensive. I don't know if they have that in their licensing or deals now that NFLPA, NBA PA, all these leagues now have equity stake and ownership. So I don't know if as a part of that, they are also getting more exclusive access. These players have to sign more autographs. The products have to be bolstered and be better. I'm hoping that's part of the contractual language, because if it's not, and they have to go out on the secondary market to buy these game-used items, we know that essentially they paid a ton of money. Fanatics has paid a ton of money for these licenses, so these products are going to continue to get watered down. I mean, they have to continue to get watered down unless, Michael Rubin's going to continue to grow the hobby like he thinks that he is. Well, good luck with that, because right now, the more that you print, the more that you water down products, the more Topps Chrome sets that you release in baseball, the less that we actually care. I mean, the more products, the worse off it is. So there's a fine balance, and Fanatics is right now teetering on the other side of that. So, unless they can improve the quality and actually introduce really nice game-use materials, good autographs. Patrick Mahomes hasn't signed autographs in a long time. Tom Brady doesn't sign autographs in a long time. Panini does a horrible job of getting active signers for the NFL and the NBA of today's superstars to actually sign autographs. Topps does a phenomenal job with Major League Baseball. I don't know if it's the culture differences between the players in that league versus the culture in the NBA versus the culture in the NFL. I have my thoughts on that. I'll be quiet about it, but I think that does play a part of it. But at the same time, Topps probably does a better job in terms of getting people to sign autographs. Of course, they do a better job at getting game-use memorabilia. Of course, there's 162 games in a Major League Baseball season. It may be easier to do that, but still, in the NBA and NFL, Poopini has dropped the ball. So I'm very happy that they're getting screwed. Good riddance. Hate them. At the same time, Fanatics is not going to be better. I'm happy that they are screwing Poopini, but now I'm just waiting for them to, in some way, get screwed. And because I know that we're all going to get fisted as collectors. We're all going to get the shaft. Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic whatsoever about this. I am happy that this expeditiously removes Panini from the playing field. Now, the one thing that I will miss about Poopini is their super short print inserts, not the kabooms, not the downtowns, not those overplayed garbage sets, but there are some unique case hit inserts that are actually rather unique. The bad thing as it relates to Fanatics is because it is essentially going to be Topps, we're going to get chrome everything. So all the cool inserts for your favorite player right now, those are essentially going to die. You are going to get chrome, which chrome is better than prism. It's better than optic. It's better than select. But chrome better be clean chrome. It better be centered chrome. It better be chrome with, chrome technology, with etching, etc., and no surface scratches. But they're going to chrome everything. I mean, baseball has 10 plus Topps Chrome sets out there. So, not just one Topps Chrome set, we've got multiple, which is really, really annoying. So I'm not very happy about that, but the insert sets are going away from Panini, which I will miss. That's the one thing that I will miss, but I'm much more happy to deal with Topps' IP during this time. So that's really my takeaway. Again, I'm happy that Poopini is getting screwed. Fanatics is not going to do any better. Shohei Ohtani, man, it is bad news. I am a little bit bummed about it, but I didn't take this news really as negatively as a lot of other people did. A lot of people thought that the sky is falling. I really don't know how you can say the sky is falling on a guy who's literally on pace, now whether he does this, I don't know, but on pace for 56 home runs. And he's got 17 stolen bases. He's going to get over 20 stolen bases. He has been a dominant pitcher. He literally has the lowest batting average against of any AL pitcher right now. Of course, he's not going to meet the pitching thresholds because you have to have 162 innings in order to meet the pitching statistic measures. So he's going to come short of that because he's at 132 innings, if I'm not mistaken. He's not pitching again, clearly. So it is a little bit of a bummer that we were seeing unfold perhaps the greatest baseball season of all time, and it is cut short, at least the pitching side of it, but the guy is still going to be hitting bombs. He's very likely over 50 home runs. I mean, yesterday, again, with a torn UCL, he hits a home run over 440 feet. It was already torn, and he hits a home run over 440 feet. So he's going to be fine as a hitter. It's just unfortunate we're going to lose the value as a pitcher. If all these little niños out there want to jump off a cliff because they think the sky is falling and want to dump their money into Ronald Acuna Jr., Juan Soto, I'm going to celebrate that, to be honest, because what that means is I get another 6 to 9 months to load up on Shohei Ohtani cards, hopefully some really good ones at a discount, hopefully some really good clean raw ones at a discount, whether it's rookies, autographs, variations, refractors, you name it. So I'm pretty excited about this. Very disappointed, though, for Shohei Ohtani. There's not another sports athlete, human on this planet who deserves better than this. Like, what he pours out into the game, you can see it in his fight and his grit, the culture that he was raised in. He seems to be, of course, nobody knows these athletes on this type of level, but he seems to be a genuinely great human who is trying to be the best at his craft. And I'm genuinely sad for him as a fan of him and a fan of really what he's doing as a baseball player. It's captivating. So I share the same sentiment as a lot of other people out there. Like, I love watching Rich Eisen's takes on this because he's like gut-wrenched as well, because he sees just how valuable Ohtani has been and just how incredible it's been to witness. So to see this come to an end and also jeopardize 2025 in terms of that two-way ability, that absolutely sucks, dude. There's nothing better than a pitching performance by Shohei Ohtani because both ends of the game are entertaining. You get to watch the guy pitch, and then he gets to go out on the other side and hit. And it was just last month the guy throws a one-game, complete game shutout, and then hits 2 home runs the next day in a doubleheader. I mean, in the game yesterday he gets yanked out of course he gets yanked out, and he hits a home run in the same game. So just seeing him pitch and hit in the same time, it is so fun to watch. And it is just very disappointing to see that. But why would I be worried about his cards, dude? This is probably going to add to his lore. Like, he already has crazy lore coming back from Tommy John surgery, having probably the best 3-season stretch of any player in MLB history. Yeah, you can argue Barry Bonds, but he's roided up, bro. Like, yes, that was very impressive. But you were on roids. Of course, he didn't probably need roids. He was great pre-roids. I won't get into that argument. But what Shohei Ohtani is doing, arguably the greatest 3-year stretch in baseball history. To see it come to an end like this on the pitching side is just so disappointing, because I wanted to see it be the greatest 4-year stretch, maybe the greatest 5-year stretch, or the greatest 6-year stretch. And it honestly still could be. It just could have that gap in the middle in 2024 where he's still an elite hitter. He just misses pitching. And even if he comes back as a dominant closer, I mean, I just listened to an interview from Jeff Passan where he was saying that even if he comes back as a closer, I mean, they're giving closers, 50, 60, 70 million dollars for 5 years. So of course nobody's going to be really invested in a closer, but I mean, if you're an elite hitter and then you also close and can add that value, I mean, we're talking about, again, Mike Trout and then perhaps the most dominant closer in the game. All in one human. That in itself is perhaps the greatest baseball player of all time, let alone, the 3 years that he pitched at an elite level, plus, the 50 innings he gave as a rookie. It's just, I mean, he's doing everything on the baseball field. Will he be able to do 160 innings, give us 650 at-bats for the next 10 years every year? It appears that the body is not able to sustain that, but we are seeing peak human potential as it relates to Shohei Ohtani. We're seeing where the human body hits physical limitations. And it's wild. It's wild to watch. I hope that he maxes it out for his own sake as a fan of the game. But I'm not really worried about his cardboard. The people who are worried about his cardboard and they're going to go dump money into Corbin Carroll, okay, good luck with that, guys. All right, I just want to get this video out and throw out my thoughts. See you guys next time.